it's not been easy for me. It has not been easy for me. And, you know, I started off in Brooklyn. My father gave me a small loan of $1 million.
Hey y'all, it's Troy here, and today let's talk about, yet again, another Warhammer game, baby. I swear, I'm not just a Warhammer channel, but I do love Warhammer. It's very dark, gritty, and rich, and they just make some absolutely banger video games. I'm definitely your casual Warhammer video game enjoyer. And here we have Warhammer 40k Rogue Trader, which, correct me if I'm wrong, is the first full-fledged RPG in the 40k universe. To me, that is bonkers. Why hasn't this been attempted before? With Warhammer having such a huge, dedicated fan base that also loves nerdy video games, why hasn't there been more Warhammer RPGs? Anyways, I digress. So yes, Rogue Trader, it's a CRPG developed by Owlcat Games.
Which a CRPG means computer role-playing game, a subgenre of RPG that usually involves some sort of turn-based combat and emphasizes stats and tactics over action, and is usually characterized by their isometric viewpoint.
Go outside, nerd. Get out. Go.
Of course, this is a very simplistic breakdown, but usually CRPGs are top-down point and click. And the developer, Owlcat, is relatively unproven. To my knowledge, they've only developed the Pathfinder series, 2 CRPGs, with the first in 2018, and a lot of their funding was through Kickstarter. I've never played them myself, but they were released to mostly good reviews, and their fan base does seem devoted. So, coming into Rogue Trader, I was admittedly excited, especially coming hot and fresh off the fantastic CRPG earlier this year in Baldur's Gate 3. I was itching to get out another one, and especially one set in the Warhammer IP, one that I know and personally love. Oh yeah, baby. So does it hold up? Mostly yes. I will say Rogue Trader is good and it accomplishes what it sets out to do. And that is to bring you an epic, engaging, and deep spacefaring RPG across the across the 40k universe. If you are a Warhammer 40k fan, this is almost immediately a must-buy just for its dive into the setting alone. However, Rogue Trader is not going to be for everyone. It's very much a AA, if people use that term, that is not always easy to digest. In my opinion, there are a few really big issues that really hold the game back from smashing my expectations, which maybe are a bit high. I don't know, you be the judge. Before we dive in any further, there's one thing I want to address. It's impossible not to draw the comparison between Rogue Trader and Baldur's Gate 3, but that's not really 100% fair for one big reason. Rogue Trader is not a fully priced game, only clocking in about $50 compared to Baldur's Gate 3, $60. But I'm assuming that means it's definitely a little bit of a smaller scale project than Baldur's Gate 3. However, Owlcat is the same size as Larian at about 450 employees. Regardless, all I'm trying to say is that Rogue Trader is not a huge AAA release. So it's important to keep that in our mind as we're reviewing it and drawing comparisons between the two. But friends, if you like this video, please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know down below, what do you think of Rogue Trader? Are you loving it? Will you try it out? Does it make you want to run to the rooftops and scream your devotion to the Emperor? Or rather take a seat and let Papa Nurgle's love just rot your flesh away? So with all that out of the way, let's dive in and take a look at Warhammer 40k Rogue Trader.
All must be cleansed in his name. The choices I make will shape the course of my destiny. And with each haunted step, I wonder, where will my journey end?
So, in Rogue Trader, you don the mantle of the titular Rogue Trader, a sort of king, representative, trader, pirate, Bitcoin self-help guru for the Imperium of Man. Not going to get into the lore real deep here, but essentially you are an extremely powerful agent for humanity in the 40,000th millennium, the year 40,100, I don't fucking know. and Rogue Trader takes place specifically in the Coronis Expanse, which is the very edge of humanity's domain. You are tasked with expanding and securing the domain really by any means necessary, and you'll encounter all sorts of things out here, including Xenos, heretical cults, demons of chaos, hulking space marines, colonies to conquer and make contact with, and friends to make or betray or be betrayed by. Rogue Trader is actually very interesting, as it takes the general gameplay flow of Mass Effect and weaves it into the CRPG genre. You'll be flying around on your ship, talking to companions, and exploring the galaxy. Then going to specific locations on planets and solving their problems. And of course, there's tactical turn-based combat, both on the ground and void ship battles. There's even a bit of empire management. You must make choices on the development of your established colonies. The game truly is massive, and there is a lot to do and see. Let's go ahead and break down all these mechanics, and I'll let you know what worked for me and what didn't work. Let's go ahead and start off with all the positives. There's a lot to love here in Rogue Trader. First and foremost, Rogue Trader absolutely crushes the settings and vibes of 40K. And Rogue Trader will expose you to all types of facets of the 40K universe. From the sci-fi gothic Imperium who, sure, use space wizards to tap into an interdimensional realm that allows faster than light travel, and also boasts a technology worshipping engineering cast that would put Silicon Valley to shame. But damn, do they love lighting up a good candle. The mysterious Aldari, space elves, who can't help but spit on your barbaric ways or gut you and bring you back to their city that looks like a cross between a Fall Out Boy concert and a sex shop. The 40K world is deep and interesting and rich, and Rogue Trader is not afraid to dig into that cake. The armor, guns, ships, enemies, and settings all look spot on for a 40K experience. And I'm sure players at the tabletop will have a blast seeing so much of this world come to life. And that brings me to the story itself, which so far is another strength here. And yes, I haven't quite beat the game. I'm about 80 hours in, and I'm in the very beginning of Act 4, and to my knowledge, there are 5 acts. And I do usually like to beat a game fully before reviewing it, but this game is just so massive. And from what I've heard, the main story alone is anywhere over 100 to 130 hours. And being a very small YouTuber who doesn't do this full time, I have to give myself some grace now and then. I'm not going to bullshit you guys and tell you I completed the story, but I do think that playing a game for over 60 hours is plenty to understand what it's about. If the game takes over 60 hours to get good, then it's a bad game. And if for some reason there is a big drop in quality, I'll make sure to pin a comment, or if it's that bad, make a follow-up video. So the story so far, I will say it does drag a bit at certain points, but overall it has enough intrigue and some good twists and turns to keep you going and absorbing this rich universe. The side quests and little encounters all feel meaningful and interesting. Like once I discovered a planet with some alien creature or god on it that everyone worshipped, and it ended up banishing me across the whole map. Granted, this small encounter was all text-based, but just running into these kind of things are cool. Rogue Trader also has some very strong writing and dialogue options. This game is essentially an interactive novel. And yes, partially because you will be doing a ton of reading, so be warned, if you don't like reading, you probably won't like this game. And also just that the quality of the writing here is very good. And there's a ton of different branching paths and options for you to really steer the narrative. The characters and companions are all extremely well written. The only one I'm not so invested in is Cassia. And ironically, I did decide to romance her because, I mean, you can romance multiple people in this game and it's there, so, you know, why not, right? Sorry, that's gross, but I was just curious to see how it played out. And outside of Cassia, the companions are great, and there's a ton. I will warn you, your companions can die and leave your retinue, either by your will or negligence. And shout out here to the soundtrack as well. Again, this captures 40K's essence and delivers some absolute bangers during intense boss fights. I'm not especially good at these types of games, nor really a lot of games. That's why I decided to be a game reviewer. But that doesn't mean I can't love them and have fun. I played on normal and that was the perfect level to give me a good challenge. But the difficulty here is very customizable. Of course, they have your standard presets, but you can change almost any aspect of combat. The combat in Rogue Trader isn't quite as interesting and flexible and creative as, say, Baldur's Gate 3. It is your more standard turn-based strategy affair. And there's a lot of range combat here, so it's complete with a pretty good cover mechanic system a la XCOM. The focus here is heavy on the use and timing of your character's abilities, and there are a ton of them. Just because it's not quite as flexible and creative as BG3 doesn't mean it isn't deep, because it sure is. There is a unique momentum system that will get higher or lower depending on how the battle is playing out. Once it reaches a certain threshold, you can either pull off a heroic act or a desperate measure. These acts give you huge buffs, swinging the tide of battle, usually giving you an extra attack and movement. However, the desperate measure usually come at a cost, so you have to make sure it's really worth it. It's just great stuff, man. The build variety here is fantastic too. It's extremely varied. You can mix and match classes or archetypes, unlocking more advanced tiers as you level up. The loot, oh baby, the loot, mwah. It's so nice seeing all the iconic Warhammer weapons and then some. I will say, I wish there was a bit of a better way to sort out when a specific item had a unique effect or buff, because the pictures will just kind of look the same. Say what you will about modern gaming, but the color-coded loot system is a nice way to quickly see what may be good versus what's not. Otherwise, you have to go through every single piece and look at, okay, this one has this effect, blah, 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 blah. You know, it's like, my TikTok brain wants colors. I joke, kinda. But my favorite part about the character progression is actually the morality system, which is not simply good path versus evil path. No. This is Warhammer 40k, so there's no such fucking thing as good. No such fucking thing. In Rogue Trader, you are rather asked, what do you believe in? There is iconoclast, probably the closest thing to good, where you believe in yourself and your abilities and the people around you. But it's not always good, because this can come across as a bit selfish and maybe too pragmatic. Then there's heretical, which is the closest thing to evil, believing in just decadence and power and indulging yourself in the material or otherworldly desires. And then dogmatic, aligning yourself strictly with the imperium of man's religious zeal and overbearing laws, including its intense xenophobia. As you level up these moralities, you can actually gain certain powers, so you are incentivized to pick one and follow through with it. I myself went for a mostly dogmatic playthrough, and this left some tough decisions, as not all your companions will adhere to this. Now lastly, I'd like to talk briefly on the void ship combat and colony management. Both of these I'd consider good additions, but are a bit tacked on. They are sort of distractions or side hustles from the main content. Void ship combat is fun and looks cool, but is just much more shallow compared to the main course. The same kind of goes for colony management, which does make you feel like this space-faring slumlord. But ultimately, it doesn't matter too much besides give you some access to weapons and armor and some side quests. And the game doesn't require you to engage with these too much. Actually, the colony management seems completely optional so far, which I think is good, because if these were more necessary, I think the game would definitely suffer from it. All right, so that was a lot of good stuff, eh? Now let's talk about some of the not so good things. Starting with Rogue Trader's biggest issue. The game is just buggy as hell. It's technically a mess. Nothing completely game breaking. I haven't lost a save or anything like that, but I did have to reload a lot and even completely restart my game a few times. And then just tons of graphical or sound errors, or attacks and abilities not working correctly. One hilarious bug I encountered is whenever I get frisky with one of my companions, my character model just turns invisible afterwards. I'm like, damn, Jay, this game ain't the only thing that's broke, huh? Because her back's broke. And sure, it's funny, but then I need to reload my game. Also, one of the last companions you get, the badass space marine Ulfar, I don't know if I'm saying that right. For me, he was just so bugged on a few different levels. One of his abilities just didn't work properly, so was completely useless. And just like a lot of like general scripting errors, the game had seemed to forget that I had already recruited him at one point, So at a later point in Act 3, he just kind of showed up and there was 2 Ufars running around. And also, the graphics and animation are very simplistic. I'm not saying the graphics are bad per se, because the art style is good. When the camera is zoomed out, it's a fine looking game. It's just when you zoom in and take a look at the character models or some of these cutscenes.
Your ritual won't be finished, heretic!
I would have rather had them written out to me in the usual interactive novel format. And I understand graphics aren't the focus of this game, so it's a minor issue. Another gripe I have is the voice acting, which when it's there is very, very good.
Since you know who I am and are in no hurry to kill me, I infer that you serve the Emperor, not his enemies. Allow me to introduce myself. Interrogator Heinrich van Kalox of the Imperial Inquisition's esteemed Ordo Xenos. With whom do I have the pleasure of speaking?
But it's just that it's basically non-existent. You only hear character voices in very scripted moments like character introductions and when you're talking to them on your ship. I'd say out of all the dialogue, less than 5% is voice acted. And sure, this game is $50, but Baldur's Gate 3, which was 100% voice acted, is only $10 more. So for a 16% increase in price, I get a 95% increase in voice acting. That math don't add up, bud. I'm not saying it needed to be 80% voice, but even like 40 or 50%, like just the main missions could have been nice. And like I said, when it's there, it's superb. So it just makes me go, wait, I want some more of that.
Shadow. A great big sun-eclipsing, chain-weaving shadow. I can see the threads, myriads of them extending toward us all.
Give me more, please. Give me more. And so that brings me to my final issue. The game has some bloat and pacing problems. Just the nature of Rogue Trader, it's very complex and rich. You'll be moving through this game at a slow pace as you attempt to digest all of its parts. And this compounds poorly with some of the unnecessary bloat and drag. There are a lot of combat encounters where you are just kind of wading through chaff, which can be fun at first, but after a while, it definitely drags on you. A longer game does not make it better. With Rogue Trader's issues, it's hard to justify its hundreds of hours of length. I would have much rather had the main story be, say, 80 hours, which is still plenty long, or even just a bit more voice acting or polish. I think there's people out there that just, they need hundreds and hundreds of hours a game. You can play a nice short game and it can be good and you can still enjoy it. So to wrap everything up, Rogue Trader. It's a good game. It allows the player to dive into the Warhammer 40k universe like never before. It nails what's most important for CRPGs, such as the combat, writing, and character building. However, a few issues drag it down from being a huge success. The most egregious being just the poor technical performance. So with that, I'm giving Warhammer 40k Rogue Trader a 7 out of 10. If Owlcat had released Rogue Trader relatively bug-free, this game could have easily been a 7.5 or even an 8. But in its current state, I can't justify that high of a score, even if I'm having good fun. However, for only $50, this game does offer a ton of good content. But I'd only say Rogue Trader is truly worth it if you're either a huge fan of Warhammer 40k or CRPGs. It's not going to pull any mainstream audiences like, say, Baldur's Gate 3, and that's okay. I don't think that was Owlcat's goal. And I don't think you'd be wrong if you wanted to wait maybe 6 months to a year for Owlcat to really polish this. But friends, if you enjoyed the video, please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know what you think of Warhammer 40k Rogue Trader down below. I always look forward to reading your guys' comments and engaging with y'all. Thank you so much for watching this video and have a wonderful day and a happy new year. Here's to 2024, baby. Bye-bye.